Hello and welcome to another Towa Guard video. Today we're going to be reviewing and doing a should you summon on the new collaboration units, Mori and Towa. And these are the new units. I haven't Rainbow 5 Towa, but I have Rainbow 6 Towa, but I didn't revolution her. There's not much to talk about her. She is the unit they want to summon for. If you want to know the quick answer, I'll revolution her. I just don't have enough mats, but I've used the trial on her with the set that I want to use for her, which is just a very good character in general. So but yeah, also I have Revolution 6 Mori, so I'll also give a review on her. But either way, let's talk about the unit that everybody's talking about and the unit that you should be summoning for if you are aiming to summon on the banners, and it is Towa. Towa is a support light unit, and which is very, very good. We don't have many support units in general, and a support light unit, the only one that we have is Evan, and Towa is really strong, and I think Towa is definitely stronger than Evan. I would say I would say an upgraded version, but they do similar things, kinda, right? Either way, let's look at her passive. Her passive is very important. Okay, first of all, it blocks one skill attack, and then it has a cooldown of 4 seconds, which is pretty good and very short in my opinion. And then when using the skill, it grants special demonic power to all allies based on the skill used. Okay, so basically she gives different types of buffs based on what skills she used, whether it is TMD, Towa is a Devil 2, or TMT, Angelic Demon. Devil, wow, I can't read. So essentially, if you use the skill Summon BB, okay, so the ultimate skill, also includes the ultimate skill, you get swiftness increase, right? And then if you use TMD, which is this skill over here, you increase attack and defense, and then if you use TMT, you get a bunch of healing, okay? And then which is very, very strong, and that's her passive, right? So basically, based on the skill that you use, you get different types of buffs, meaning that each 3 of these gets extra buffs, basically, right? They don't think of her passive as its own thing. Think of her passive an extension of these 3, and also she can stop skills from hitting her every 4 seconds, which is very, very strong. So let's look at her ultimate called Summon BB. Okay, Giant BB falls and deals damage equal to 1,600 of her attack to enemies in range, and knocks them down for 5 seconds, decreasing physical and magical resistance hit by 40%. That's crazy, meaning that she can be used on any team. Obviously, she's a support unit, but she's very, very strong. And then she also recovers HP. And she's also immune to status effects, which is very, very good. Basically, what it means is that this skill will always land. Once the skill activates, it will land. She's right. And also, decreased magical and physical resistance is crazy. Okay. Either way, this gets buffed in Revolution, which makes it even stronger. But either way, next skill. Okay. TMD, Towa is a Devil 2. Inflicts bleed. Okay, and reduces their defense. It inflicts bleed, debuff, and also reduces the defense also, but it also buffs your attacking defense too, which is because of the passive, right? And then the Angelic Devil TMT, it deals 600% of her attack to the enemy in range and paralyzes them for 4 seconds, okay? And just slugs the enemy for 10 seconds and deal 4% of that attack as damage every second and reduce their attack reduces their attack. Basically, the damage is cool or whatever, but it paralyzes, it stuns, and also reduces their attack, which makes the enemy hit less, which is great. She's so goddamn good. Okay, she's so good. Realistically, what more debuffs and buffs do you want for this character? They already increase swiftness. They buff attack and defense. They reduce physical and magical resistance. They spoiler alert. They do invincibility on Revolution. They reduce attack. And they heal. Literally, what more do you want? The only thing that you need is energy increase. That's about it, really, right? So those are her skills. Okay, now let's look at her weapon, right? So the bleed effect increase is basically increased. Right, the debuff, yeah, the bleed effect is increased. The shock is also increased to last a little longer, and the debuff for the BB summon BB. Basically, the physical and magical resistance debuff is increased by 5 seconds, which is really, really strong. And then, BB is watching is enhanced increase duration of all demonic power by an additional 5 seconds. BB's watching is the passive. So the passive lasts an extra 5 seconds, right? Which is really, really strong. Like, this character is so goddamn good, okay? And if you look at the revolution, I already said a little bit, but the cooldown for TMT is very strong because it's the one that you increase your attack and defense to. It's this skill over here, right? Inflicts bleed, which is cool, and reduces the defense. Oh yeah, I forgot this also reduces the defense too for the TMD. So this one reduces defense, this one reduces attack. This is, and then also this is the move that buffs your attack and defense. So the fact that the cooldown reduction is lower is great because it means that the stack of attack you get from TMT happens faster, right? Which means your characters will get stronger quicker. Is basically what this is. What this does. And then the revolution 5, which is the big one, removes debuffs from all allies upon summon BB and grants invincibility for 4 seconds. That includes herself too. So basically, this move will happen. Okay, and the invincibility for allies is great. That's basically the Evan effect, and a lesser version of the Summer Equa effect. Because it's crazy. This character is actually generally like one of the best support units in the game. They're very, very, very strong. Like, legitimately, there isn't much you can ask for a support. Like, they're the definition of a support. Building this character is very, very easy. You just put the barrier set on her. I didn't do that yet, but you put the barrier set on her. But if you don't want to put the barrier set on her, you can always put the idea set on her. That would be like the second pick. You can also put the seller set, but like, nah. just put the barrier set on her, bro. Put the barrier set on her, and then you can also put the Reflasia set actually, because the Reflasia set, but it does go in tangent with the status immunity. But this also gives you energy, makes it easier for you to ult, and making her survivability better, and helping your team with swiftness. So if you really want to value your swiftness and you want to value your invincibility, then you can go for Idea, or you can go for Reflasia too, maybe. But if you want to be safe, you want to increase your survivability on top of the skill, I would use the bar set. I guess you could use the L set if you really, really want, for more consistent energy, because you'll attack faster and making your ult gauge go faster. But I wouldn't really use L set on her. But those will be the sets. But specifically, if you value ult, Idea, if you value survivability, Bari, I'm gonna use Bari on her because she's just really good. Now we go to the controversial unit, Mori. Okay, I have a lot to say about her, but before I even get started, let me tell you her kit. Okay, at the start of battle, Calliope summons Death Sensei from another world. It's basically she gets a summon with 120% of her stats, and also it's immune status effects. And when she dies, the monster dies, right? And then basically, if someone dies on battle, she gets a buff. That's her whole passive, right? So if an ally person dies, she increases defense, okay? And then it stacks 8 times, and it goes by 80%, right? And then if an enemy dies, she gets higher attack, right? So basically, the more people die on our team, the tankier she gets, and the more people die, the easier it is to close the fight. Right, I have a problem with this passive, but we'll keep our Sister Revolutions here. I might as well just say it too. Upon summoning Death Sensei, his inherited stats will increase by 30%, so it's 150. And then when Calypso assists in eliminating the enemy, the remaining skill cooldowns of Make Him Afraid decreases by 90%, which is good because this is the assassin skill for the assassin unit. Okay, this is a yellow assassin unit, right? Either way, then let's go to the ult. Calypso becomes invincible and makes the enemy love struck when striking down with a scythe to deal damage equal to 1800 of her attack. Love struck enemies become fascinated by 4 seconds, and physical resistance decreased by 50%. That's good because it'll go tangent well with her Make Him Afraid skill. So basically, if you decrease physical resistance and you have physical allies, this skill does really well. But it also goes well with the Make Him Afraid skill, because this is her damage dealing skill. And then you have, let's go to the damage dealing skill since I'm already here. A Calypso is that increased by 200 for 7 seconds, and then she conceals herself, which is good for survivability, moves behind the enemy with the highest attack, dealing 1200 of her attack as damage, and inflicting them with fear for 3 seconds. Calypso becomes immune as the status effects using the skill. So basically, you're hard to kill this character because she's concealed. Well, unless if you're fighting like characters that can remove the concealment, like Mori. It's also immune, so it's not invincible, but she's like close to invincible, right? And the revolution gives her critical damage. It's always increased. It's always a crit rate and also 400 energy from the hit enemies. This is important because this is basically telling you to use the Mago set on her. Like that's basically what this game is trying to tell you, because this is the first skill that happens. So the second that you use this, the proc for the Mago set will happen, right? So that's why they have this on there. Either Reaper, Calypso creates a spotlight that illuminates herself and Sensei for 5 seconds, recovering HP equal to 200 of their respective attack every second. So she just heals, right? And then she deals 100% of her attack as damage enemies in range every second and paralyzes them, which is cool. It's a debuff, right? And then this revolution skill for Arena. So let's look at her equipment too. So Calypso increases physical and magical resistance increased by 40% while Death Sensei is alive. That's crazy, and the fact that you can't remove it means that she's going to be very, very tanky. Really, really tanky. When the spotlight is created by Reaper ends Death Sensei provokes enemy charm for 5 seconds. So use a skill. That's the spotlight that heals you and paralyzes them. It's this one. So this skill will happen, and then you'll provoke them, which is pretty good. It's nice to have a little grouping, here and there. And then, grouping, right? Calypso still 50% of accuracy from love struck enemies and ignores 40% of evasiveness when she and Death Sensei love struck enemies, which is really good, right? I think love struck is the ult. Yeah, it's the ult. So basically, it makes it easy. It makes it easier for you to hit, right? It's not an insta hit, but it makes it a lot easier for you to do that. And then it decreased stealing accuracy is very good. It makes it easier for you to evade and whatever. That goes well with a specific character that I have in mind. Anyways, Go Death Sensei is enhanced, and when allies includes Calypso's Death Sensei dies, increase evasiveness by 20% and increase accuracy by 20% when the enemy dies. Right. So basically, it just buffs the passive where if your allies die, you get 20% evasiveness. And then when the enemy dies, you get attack, and you also get 20% accuracy, which is good. Okay, anyways, so this is the problem with this character, and this is why this character is not that good, okay? The game doesn't really know what this character wants to be specifically, okay? So this character, the way that you look at this character is that they have the skills and passive and the ult don't really synergize well with each other, right? And the way that this character is built it feels like 3 different people made it, right? So if you look at this character, right, this character does a lot of debuffs, like a lot of debuffs, right? So they paralyze them, they get feared, and then they inflict them with fear, they get paralyzed, they reduce accuracy, they reduce physical resistance, right? And it seems great, but this character doesn't do a lot of damage. And the reason why this character doesn't do a lot of damage, this character really does not do a lot of damage. And I don't mean in the sense of, Hugo outscales her in damage. No, I mean this character does no damage. And the reason why this character doesn't do a lot of damage is because she doesn't debuff the enemy to do said damage enough, right? And she does debuff the enemy in terms of physical resistance in her ult, which is a weird decision to make because the damage dealing skill for this character is this active skill, right? Because this active skill, they're clearly trying to make it the damage dealing unit. That's the assassin skill, right? It results in instant critical damage, right? And then also they have this thing here too, right? By reducing the cooldown of Death Sensei, basically you're trying to make it so that when the enemy dies, you're able to use the skill again and kill the other enemy, right? That's essentially what the goal is for this character. Is that you're supposed to use the skill, kill the enemy, and then this procs, and then you'll get a buff from it, and then you'll be able to use it again, or you'll be able to use it very quickly, right? But the character just does no damage, and because the physical resistance is on the ult, and the ult doesn't do a lot of damage either, Ult doesn't do barely anything, right? And like it's weird that they decided to make the revolution so hell bent on this active skill because two of the revolution is based off this active skill for the crit and the enemy energy reduction, and then also the yes, and this one too. The eliminate make him afraid decrease by 90%. I mean, yes, the elimination energy is really nice, but sure. And the thing is, the passive skill where it's like, okay, you don't really get a lot of buffs from this character until you don't really get benefit of this character if an enemy dies. But because this character doesn't do a lot of damage, because they don't debuff the enemy unless if you're using the ult, it's really hard for her to kill an enemy. It's really hard for her to kill an enemy. So for the most part, your allies will die, but her. And the reason why she won't die is because she has the physical and magical resistance, but she won't die. But she also won't like kill anybody because she does like no damage, literally no damage. And for the thing is, most characters have passive delete or their ult. The passive deletes into their ult, and normally that's what gives them a lot of damage. Or they have a core idea, right? And each skill kind of meshes well, right? For example, let's look at Hugo. Hugo is based on debuffing the enemy, and then once she debuffs the enemy, she'll be able to like do a stupid amount of damage with her ult and her assassination skill, right? Look at this, right? The second that the round starts, she provokes, okay, and then like she gets a shield, and then she also she literally debuffs the enemy team. Like that's a whole thing. Like she steals 40% of their attacking defense, and that's her assassin skill. Her assassin skill for and then with that, once the enemy is hella debuffed, her ult will do a stupid amount of damage because she just debuffed the hell out of the enemy team. And then that's the same thing with the and the ult also debuffs the attacking defense, so she'll do a lot of damage, right? The character is very cohesive. Same thing with Helljo. Helljo is very like squishy, but Helljo does a stupid amount of damage. You know why? Because he debuffs the enemy hella, and also his ult is crazy, right? Like that's what he does, right? And then but with other characters, like look at this, like you're supposed to use this first, right? Debuff the swiftness, right? And then enemy damage by Helljo has the defense decreased by 12% and swiftness decreased by 8%. You do that, and then together they do a lot of damage, right? You have to debuff the enemy, and then you damage the enemy with the skill that you have. But this character is the opposite, where you'll damage the enemy first, and then you'll debuff them. But you already use your damage dealing skill, and even the ult doesn't do that much damage regardless, right? But this character is all about fascinating the enemy, provoking the enemy, debuffing the enemy. The character is just based on debuffing the enemy, but she doesn't do a lot of damage at all, right? And it doesn't help that the revolution is just doubling down on damage, and but this character doesn't do damage anyways. I've made my point about this character and damage, but she's very tanky. The thing about this character is that she's very tanky, but she does like no damage. So like the way that you want to use her generally is not as a DPS but as a utility unit. So which is confusing because if she's a utility unit, why do you want to put Mago set on her? Why are you doing the 400 energy as a way to make us use the Mago set? Because the Mago set increases crit damage, which is clearly they want you to use it because they have a crit increase. They have an instant critical hit on the skill, and it drains the 400 energy. So with the 400 energy and the crit guaranteed, the crit damage from the Mago set will make this theoretically hit really hard. But she doesn't hit hard, even with the set. So what are we doing here? And the reason why she doesn't hit hard is because the debuff is on her ultimate, not her passive, not her active skill. Excuse me? What are we doing here? So like, okay, she does like no damage. Oh my god. So like, even though they have this on her, you want her to use her as a utility unit. So the best way you can use her, in my opinion, is to just use a bunch of like, she's a Barry victim. Put the Barry set on her, have a bunch of effect hit stats on her, and use effect hit on her revolution, and just use her that way because she's not really gonna be useful any other way. Like she's just okay, and like obviously if you have a rainbow, you'll get value off of her because she's a rainbow unit. But all her skills just feel very disjointed, where like they don't really mesh well together, right? Because you have revolutions based on damage and based on this active skill, But this kit itself is very utility based, very debuff based. And then if you look at her equipped exclusive weapons, they're very much based on survivability, right? With the physical and magical resistance increase, and the reducing the accuracy of the enemy team and increasing your evasiveness. It's just basically just making your character survive longer. So this character is basically a jack of all trade, master of none. Yeah, you know, I feel like this character was made like a long time ago, and the meta's changed now. Like this character would be very very good a year ago, 2 years ago, but this character, well, a year ago, this game wasn't out for 2 years. This character would be very good a year ago, but right now, she's a very like useless character. You know, we just had a yellow assassin unit, Hugo, that's 10 times better. He has to do different things. Hugo is based on attack and defense debuffs, and this character is based on like status alignments. I can't speak. You get the idea, right? But this character is just okay. She's just okay. In fact, look, let me show y'all. By the way, I have the Magro set on her. If you wanted to know, let's just experience this together, right? I do this with every single unit, so don't think that I'm being biased. I did this with Heljo. I did this with Hugo. I did this with everybody. Right? So look at this. She's not killing anybody. She's literally not killing anybody. Look at that. Her defense increased, and there we go. Didn't kill nobody. She didn't almost kill anybody. She's not good. You know. Unless I don't have all her revolution set up for this one. Right. So let's use her with the rented one. This was the rented one, wasn't it? Yeah, that's crazy. Anyways, I forget. But anyways, let's do this. Maybe not a fair chance. Let's do this again with the rented one that I have. I think the set here was I forget what set this was, but look at this, bro. She's not good. She's not good, bro. I'm telling you, she's not good. She's not good at all. The thing is, like, she doesn't kill anybody because she doesn't debuff them, and then if you don't have enough effect hit, like, most of her skills are useless. So, anyways, that's the tea. That's the struggle. Anyway, so summary. Okay, you want to summon for you want to summon for Towa, and you don't summon for Mori. That's what you do. Maybe you can have Mori as a unit on the side, but you don't need to rainbow her. In fact, I think she's one of the few units where rainbowing her doesn't matter, because you just use the body set and use her for her set, like her debuff. You're not going to use her for her damage, and even her ult isn't like good enough for you to be like, yeah, I need to invest in her, into rainbowing her. She's just fine very low loops. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, there we go. Anyways, this revolution is just based on doing more damage to her active skill, but her active skill doesn't do that much damage anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you invest in her revolution. The only thing that really matters is her effect hit. So anyways, that's the tea. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all next time.